34 years old, a World Cup 6 weeks away, a return to his boyhood club that was supposed to be the greatest comeback story in Brazilian football. And then, on a Sunday morning at the Escalate training center in Santos, Neymar slapped an 18-year-old teammate across the face, a kid who grew up idolizing him, a kid he called his Godson. That is what happened this week. And the story that followed, the lawsuit, the tearful statement, the apology, the reconciliation, says something about Neymar, about Brazilian football, and about what the 2026 World Cup might look like without the player who was supposed to be its biggest Brazilian star. Before we get into it, if you want every football story like this one covered as it breaks, subscribe right now and hit the bell. Every update, every angle, every development, right here. Now, let's go through what actually happened, because the full story is more complicated, more emotional, and more human than the headlines made it sound. It was Sunday, May 3rd. Santos had played Palmeiras the day before, and a group of players not involved in that match were in at the Rei Pelé facility for a training session. Neymar was there. So was Robinho Jr., 18 years old, the son of former Real Madrid and Manchester City forward Robinho, a teenager whose talent had already attracted interest from Liverpool and Chelsea, a teenager who had grown up with Neymar as his idol, a teenager whose father had been the one to help Neymar when he was young, and who credited that relationship as part of why Neymar later vowed to take care of Robinho Jr. in return. During the session, Robinho Jr. nutmegged Neymar. He dribbled past him, and according to multiple reports from Brazilian outlet Globo Esporte, who first broke the story, Neymar did not take it well. Neymar reportedly told Robinho Jr. to take it easy. Words were exchanged, the situation escalated, and then, according to the account in Globo Esporte and confirmed in the extrajudicial document filed by Robinho Jr.'s representatives, Neymar deliberately tripped the teenager, directed verbal abuse at him, and delivered what was described as a violent slap to his face. Teammates intervened. Both players were removed from the session. Neymar, by all accounts, immediately recognized what he had done. He approached Robinho Jr. before the session even finished and apologized. He reached out to the player's family. He asked for forgiveness multiple times. But the damage was already done, and Robinho Jr.'s representatives made sure it wouldn't stay quiet. The extrajudicial notification sent to Santos on Monday listed 4 demands: an internal investigation, the provision of training footage, an official statement from the club on measures taken, and a meeting to discuss a possible contract termination, citing the absence of minimum security conditions at the club. That is not the language of a minor misunderstanding. That is the language of a formal legal process, and once it hit the media, the story exploded. Santos confirmed they had opened an investigation. Their statement acknowledged the awareness of an alleged physical assault committed by a player affiliated with the club. Neymar's representatives, at least, initially claimed to have no knowledge about the subject when contacted. The Brazilian football world went into overdrive. And then, just as quickly as it had ignited, Robinho Jr. himself stepped forward and changed everything. In a statement that was clearly written with great care, the 18-year-old said something that many people didn't expect to hear. He said the situation took on a dimension it shouldn't have. He said the extrajudicial notice and lawsuit thing came in a moment of anger from him and his agents, more his emotions than his mind. He said he could have thought twice about it. He said it was never meant to hit the media. He said it caused unnecessary fallout that was bad for both of them. And then he talked about Neymar in a way that stopped the conversation cold. He said Neymar is his idol since he was a kid, someone he cares about a lot. He said the first gift Neymar ever gave him was a jersey when he was 8 years old. He said he cried a lot when he received it, and he said he still has it. That detail, an 8-year-old boy, a Neymar jersey, kept for 10 years. That detail tells you everything about the relationship that existed before Sunday's training session, and everything about why this incident hurt as much as it did. Robinho Jr. said Neymar was wrong. He said he already apologized and was man enough to own up to it. He said he was man enough to talk to him too. And then he said something that most people in most situations find very hard to say. He said everyone makes mistakes. Neymar is human, just like the rest of us. He said the apologies are accepted. Everything fine. The lawsuit, the extrajudicial notice, he said those came from a place of anger and emotion and weren't meant to be the outcome. They weren't meant to hit the media. They weren't meant to be this. So where does this leave things? On one level, the human story here has a resolution. Neymar apologized. Robinho Jr. accepted. A relationship that was built over many years, through family ties, through shared history at Santos, through the kind of bond that exists when an idol takes a young player under their wing, appears to have survived something that could have easily destroyed it. That matters. People are more complicated than their worst moments, and both of these men, in how they handled the aftermath, showed more maturity than many expected. But on another level, this story is not finished, because this is happening 6 weeks before the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and Neymar is supposed to be one of Brazil's most important players, if he makes the squad at all. Let's talk about the World Cup dimension, because it's impossible to separate this incident from the larger story of Neymar's season, his fitness, and the enormous uncertainty surrounding whether he actually makes it to North America. Neymar left Al Hilal in January 2025 and returned to Santos, his boyhood club, the place where everything started. The homecoming was extraordinary, a hero's welcome, crowds in the streets, an emotional return that captured something real about what he means to Brazilian football. He is the country's all-time leading scorer, having passed Pelé in 2023. He carried Brazil for years. He was supposed to be the face of this World Cup the way he had been the face of 2014 on home soil, of 2018 when he returned from injury, of 2022 when Brazil arrived in Qatar as one of the favorites. But injuries have devastated his time at Santos. He has barely played. His fitness has been a constant question mark. And now, a physical altercation during a training session, however quickly resolved, adds another cloud over a situation that was already uncertain enough. Brazil coach Carlo Ancelotti is set to name his World Cup squad in the coming weeks. He is already dealing with confirmed absences. Rodrigo will not be at the tournament. Eder Militao is out, young Estevan is in a race against time, and Neymar, the player whose name carries more weight than any of them in terms of commercial value, national identity, and the emotional stakes of the tournament, is fighting to prove he deserves a place before this incident even happened. The question now is whether Santos' internal investigation produces any formal consequences, whether the club takes disciplinary action, whether any of this accelerates the decision about Neymar's future at the club. His contract runs only until December 31st of this year, whether it affects Ancelotti's squad deliberations. Think about what it means for Brazilian football if Neymar doesn't make it to 2026. He has spoken about this World Cup in North America as his last, the final chapter, the chance to do what he has come so close to doing and yet never achieved, winning a World Cup for Brazil. In 2014, he was injured before the semifinals. In 2018, he returned from injury, but Brazil went out in the quarterfinals. In 2022, they went out in the quarterfinals again on penalties, without him scoring the decisive one. Every tournament has ended short of where it needed it to go. 2026 was supposed to be different, a return to the club where he found his football again, a clean slate, a team that even with its injuries has enough quality around him to compete. And now, this. The incident itself, a slap in a training session between two players who care about each other, born out of a flash of ego from a superstar who has spent 20 years being told he is the greatest and doesn't always respond well to being shown otherwise, is not the largest thing in football. Robinho Jr. himself said as much. Neymar is human. He made a mistake. He owned it. The apology was accepted. But the timing is brutal, the optics are damaging, and the questions about whether Neymar, at 34, with a body that has been through more injuries than most players face in a career, with a mind that has never quite quieted the noise that surrounds him, is truly ready for the weight of a final World Cup, those questions have not gotten easier this week. Robinho Jr. still has that jersey. He was 8 years old when Neymar gave it to him. He cried then, he cried again this week, for different reasons. And in his statement, he said something that cuts through all the noise around this story and gets to something true. He said, "Everyone makes mistakes. He could have made one too. He's done it plenty of times." That kind of grace from an 18-year-old who had just been slapped across the face by his idol and then watched it become global news is more remarkable than anything Neymar has done with a football in the last 2 years. The lawsuit is dropped. The apology is accepted. Two footballers, one a legend, one a rising star, go back to training together at the Rey Pelé Center in Santos. But the question about whether Neymar makes it to 2026 and whether he's the player Brazil need him to be when he gets there is now louder than ever. So tell me what you think. Should Neymar be in Brazil's World Cup squad? And do you believe this incident says something about where he is right now, mentally, emotionally, as he tries to write the final chapter of his career? Drop your answer in the comments. This story is going to keep developing. And if you want every football story covered like this, the full picture, every angle, nothing missed, subscribe right now. We'll be following Brazil, Neymar, and every team all the way to the final. This story is still developing. And as always, football never stays quiet for long.